I'm Nishi Patel. I'm an award-winning accountant and Northamptonshire Business Person of the Year. And what I'm going to do is interview successful business owners to learn about how they achieved their dream and the adversity they had to overcome along the way. This podcast is essential listening if you're running a business and need the motivation to scale it. And what you're going to do is learn about what drives them forward when most people give up, how they made it through their darkest days, and the advice they would give to someone following in their footsteps. So today I'm privileged to be joined by Hazel Napier, who's the director of BEB Consultancy. Apologies, BEB Contract and Legal. And she's going to tell us about what she does.
So kind of basically what you said in a nutshell. So we do all things to do with contracts. So we write bespoke contracts for businesses, typically like terms and conditions, subcontractor agreements, shareholder agreements, anything a business needs written down. And then we review the contracts that our clients get sent to make sure they get a fair deal. That's
really amazing. Based on what you said, I've got so many follow-up questions. But before we go into that, maybe you could tell the audience about who you are, a bit about your upbringing and how you got into BEB.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I had quite a relatable route into business because I never had a dream to write terms and conditions. I don't think any kid wakes up hoping that they'll write T's and C's for a living. So I suppose I was quite lucky with my upbringing because we grew up with not a lot. My parents didn't have anything. But they had the drive to get us out of the council estate that we were living in. So basically they put my sister and I through a private school. We got the bursary paid for us, so we didn't pay tuition fees, which is the only way we could have possibly done it. And that gave us the ambition to then go on to university. And I say university as though it's like a magical route into business, and it's absolutely not, because I spent 20 grand on drinking and having fun. I did.
You know what? I do have a question. I hope you don't mind I interrupt. But what was it? Were you like one of the only kids on the bursary in your private school?
I think there were. I only know one other person that was on a bursary, and she was a friend of mine, and we both used to show up to this private school in our battered cars.
Oh, right.
My dad had once punched the window out of one of our cars to break in, and so it was just sort of covered in a t-shirt.
Yes.
And then my friends were rocking up in Range Rovers and stuff. It was super embarrassing, but it was incredible to get us to that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, and how did you feel like being, were you accepted into the school?
And definitely. They were brilliant, and my friends were brilliant as well. And I kind of didn't realise how different it was until, I'd go back to one of their houses, and they were in, a massive mansion, and you'd be thinking, what's going on here? Where are the fish fingers? but I mean, there's all credit to my mum and dad, really, for having that ambition for us, because I don't think I would have done that. It was mostly because she'll kill me for saying this, but my sister was quite bullied at state school, which is why they wanted to move her out of that. I kind of got dragged along with her to a better place, but I think I could well still be on that crappy council estate if it weren't for my mum and dad and my sister dragging me up to something better. So I'm very happy in a strange way. And then so I went off to uni. I did languages, which is honestly such a waste of my tuition fees, because it was just what I was good at school, really. I didn't have a plan. So anyone that I just feel so sorry for these teenagers that have so much pressure to decide what they want to do when they're 18 years old. Honestly, I can tell you now, I didn't have a clue at all. So
you're pretty much the same age as me, aren't you? Or wait, when were you
37?
born? I'm 38 this next week. Actually, so you didn't have to pay tuition fees, I guess, or you only had the bare minimum. But we got the massive, the maximum we could take. And I did a 4-year course, so it was quite a lot of money that I'm still paying off. Yeah, but I get what you're saying, because when you got to pay, I'd make very different decisions if I had to pay 50 grand in tuition fees.
Oh God, yeah.
Or I don't know what it is, 30,000, 40,000 now. But whereas before it was free, so you had the luxury of doing something just because your heart wanted it.
And I think that being at the school I was at, everyone went to university, whereas at other state schools I was at before, no one went. So it wasn't even a do you want to go to uni, it was what are you going to do at uni? And so I made kind of wasn't even a decision to make. It was just what are you going to study? Oh, okay, I'll think about languages, kind of thing. So that was that pressure to make a decision and go on to university. And honestly, I had so much fun. I had the absolute time of my life. And it wasn't, it wasn't what drove my career or anything.
Where did you go to uni?
I went to Bath.
Oh right, yeah, that's a great place.
Stunning city, but so expensive.
Yeah,
so expensive. But I honestly had the most fantastic time, and then kind of left there with no clue what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do languages as a career, but I didn't have a plan. So I just sort of bumbled about. My mum gave me a really good work. She made me work ethic. So we always worked in our school holidays and stuff. She worked in the NHS, and she'd always take us along to. So we'd do placements at the hospital with her. And I think because I was kind of representing her with her friends at the hospital, I wanted to work super hard. I'd type so fast that my hands ached at the end of the day. So I was just I really want to do well. So every job I've done to the best of my ability. Okay. And I suppose coming out of university, not knowing what I wanted to do, I just temped everywhere. Yeah. And I'd really recommend that to everyone because it gives you a really good feel for loads of different industries and loads of different types of jobs.
Where did you temp, or just industry-wise? You know, to be specific.
Cleaning companies. Okay. Events companies, everything, and then I happened to end up at a lift company because Northampton and lifts.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Go hand in hand, and I guess it was again working hard, luck of the draw. I met a great contact there who's still a friend of mine today, and he took me with him to another lift company, and that's where I met Bev, who's my business partner.
Was she? So when you met Bev, she was working there.
So she had set up. The first day of Bev running BEB as a consultant in the lift industry, I met her. I sat opposite her. I was working for her client on Moulton Park. And it was just one of those weird situations where she'd be coming in every week to do work for that client. And then I'd just sit opposite her and we'd kind of chat. And she actually, so she offered me a part-time job. Yeah. Just doing some admin for her. And she said the reason she offered me the job was because I never looked busy. Which doesn't sound like a compliment.
or maybe it's you did something so effortlessly.
I think that's what it was. So I'd curl up on a seat and she'd see me as a bit of a swan because everyone around me was panicking and crazy doing work, but I was quite organised and had everything done, and that's why she thought
cool under pressure.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up knowing Bev and the company, and then little by little I worked hard, worked my way up, and now I part own it with her.
How long between when you joined it and became part owner? What was the length of time?
Well, I think so. I've been doing bits here and there for her, and then I was also working. So I did. I left the lift company and went to work at the hospital. So I did lots of random jobs in between. Yeah. And then I quit the job at the hospital, and she took me on full time, and then she made me a director for my 30th birthday. So I reckon maybe
as a birthday present, or it was just coincidence.
It was a birthday, but it was a letter. She gave me a letter on my birthday, and I didn't really take it in because she also gave me a present. And I was just oh, thanks. And then she was like, "Did you actually read that?" And I was like,
"Was it a share certificate?" No. Or was it a present wrapped in a share certificate?
But it was incredible. So it's probably about 5 years from knowing her to that point.
Oh, amazing. Okay. And then how long have you been with BEB altogether now?
So I guess more or less from the start. So we've been going for 14 years.
Wow, 14 years. So so you became an owner at 5 years in, which would have been 9 years ago, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm good at maths. Oh, well done. Accountant. Award-winning accountant.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I won my award.
So yeah, she made me a director first, and then I got shares later, and then never looked back.
Yeah, because I've come across people in the past, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want the hassle of ownership. I don't want to work for myself. I don't want to be responsible for bringing my own stuff in." What made you want to do it?
I never really thought about it, I suppose. So that's I think a lot of people that you'll interview on here kind of have a vision, have a dream of owning a company or setting up a company or something. So
you had that dream before you were offered it?
Not at all. I fell into it. Yeah. Just some weird coincidence of people colliding and just happening to meet at the right time.
Well, okay, yeah. Did you have to do any research into it, or did you just accept straight away? Or?
Oh no, I just went for it.
Yeah,
I was bit her hand off. Okay. Because I guess so I'd been networking with BEB, and I was fully invested in BEB, and I just thought this is my future, and I fully believed in the vision and could just there was no alternative. So I never even gave it a thought.
No, that's really good. Yeah.
Do or die.
You know what? Sometimes, like, I've always got a belief, like, if you got to think about something, maybe it's not the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, you should just know in your instincts. You should be able to say yes in a split second.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I don't know. I've been told I'm impulsive, though. That's
You are impulsive.
Yeah. Actually, you've known me for quite a few years, so you can. Although you're impulsive, I'm trying to think. I can't remember. It's maybe not as impulsive as me, but but I think to be a business owner, you have to be slightly. You're probably more impulsive than your average person.
Yeah, maybe. Because you have to make quick decisions.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, like there's. I think in business there's a lot more opportunities, but they don't present themselves as long as they do in employment.
Yeah.
Like employment, you might have one opportunity, but it might be there for months.
That's true.
It's like, hey, you got 5 minutes. But then you know what? That's why you've got to have that. You got to have that vision. You got to have that culture, documented, because then you can look at those and try and understand how well aligned that decision you've got to make is. Sorry, this isn't about business and preaching.
That's okay. I was gonna say, did you have a dream? Like, did you always know you wanted to run an accountancy business?
I knew. I wasn't born like wanting to be an accountant
with an abacus.
I got to university and I did quite a weird degree. I did chemistry with enterprise management, and enterprise management is about starting up a business from scratch, and chemistry is in the name. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what, there's some bits of chemistry I can do quite well because I've got that analytical business, but you know what, how many times can I make paracetamol? It's like, well, no, I know you can make different drugs and then you can look at them through spectrometers and all that kind of stuff. And I just got to a point where I was like, hey, I've got the skill set, but it's being used in the wrong way.
Yeah.
But what I really enjoyed about my course is the enterprise management, learning about business, like that whole risk of starting something up from scratch. And that's how I got into accounting. I was trying to combine those two. And then when I got into it, I knew it was the only thing I wanted. But when I started my business, I'd got to a point where I was working for money, but nothing else.
Yeah.
In my career, and I've always had this longing to be part of something bigger. By the way, I like how you exchange the interview roles.
I think it's quite, because I reckon people that are listening to this might be thinking about starting a business, but you also only think people that start a business have this vision, have this dream, like that's their ultimate goal, and we both are saying that we kind of came to it from a different way, which I think.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, for me, I just wanted to be. I want to make connections that mattered.
Yeah.
I know in a workplace, I'm not going to belittle anyone who works for someone else here, because it's really important for the economy, and they do incredibly important work. And us, more importantly. But it's the impact you can have sometimes in the workplace. If you're the right kind of person for that workplace, it can be huge. Like a surgeon in the right place, a nurse in the right place, absolutely. And very many other roles in the right place. But I was in a place where all I was trying to do was help people that had a lot of money make slightly more money. And I was like, is this worth the 50-hour weeks?
Yeah.
Is this worth sacrificing the best years of my life for?
Yeah.
And so I changed, and I wanted to do something for people that would really appreciate it. I could do the same amount of work but for people who would it would make a really substantial difference to my life. But the interview's about you, Hazel.
No, it's the same for me though, because I've worked in small businesses and I've worked in large businesses, like before I came to BEB.
Yeah.
And the impact you make in a large business is so depressingly insignificant.
Yes.
So like I've worked my arse off for the NHS before, and just like you come up with great ideas, or like you hear the team come up with fantastic ideas, and then it goes to a committee after a committee after committee. They spend tens of millions of pounds on it, and then nothing gets implemented, and you just think that's just so depressing. And then going, so I'd do part-time at NHS and then part-time at BEB, so I could literally get the bus from outside the hospital to Bev's garage.
That's dedication.
And then I'd be like, I could actually see me making a difference there and then. Like, I think we should implement this form. Like, how about we do something this way? And she'd be like, yeah, okay, great. And just instantly everything was done. And I just, that's what I love about running a small business is that it's so, it changes so quickly, and everyone's input is so significant, and I can't imagine going into a big business ever again, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's and you must have made some amazing relationships along the way. I know quite a lot of people in the local community that speak very highly of you, and you've helped our own business over the years as well. So
yeah, we do a lot of networking. So a lot of you probably know my team. Kerry and Molly do a lot of networking. They're fantastic. But yeah, it's relationship building for us, and because it's quite hard to sell what we do. Again, a business doesn't wake up and think, I'd love to get some terms and conditions written today. It's about education, telling them the benefits and so on. So kind of that constant networking presence is what we aim for. Me less than them.
Yeah,
I don't practice what I preach in that regard.
But I guess the other side of it is like, the stories I've heard from other people, but yourself as well, like is that networking has been hugely important to the development of your team. Like, in terms of their own confidence, in terms of their soft skills, which translate into everything else. What's your opinion on that? Yeah,
so we've got a bit of a mix of a team. So Kerry came to us with a sales background, so she was already ready to go. But Molly started before her, and she was, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, she was very nervous. I mean, she was a kid when she started, basically. She was just fresh out of school. And I got to know her through her dad. And he put her forward for the job. I don't think she'd have ever gone for it herself. Yeah. And we interviewed her, and she was so nervous. She barely looked at us throughout the entire hour. Yeah. And then, she was just, honestly, for probably 6 months to a year, she wouldn't say boo to a goose. And now, Molly, honestly, the person that runs this radio station can tell you. We just can't shut her up now. But she's fantastic. I mean, to see that personal development. And it was the same for me, actually, because I used to be so nervous networking. So I do BNI, and I remember doing my first 10-minute presentation, and honestly, they gave me about 3 months warning, and that was the worst thing they could have done, because for 3 months I was petrified.
I'd rather just have a surprise.
Oh my God, I lost sleep for weeks. And then during the presentation, I forgot to breathe. So I had to double over and breathe in front of like 20 business owners and be like, and it was so embarrassing. But now, like, I've done presentations for like 400 funeral directors and don't even really plan it. So I
remember and I really hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I remember like Ashish Kumar on one of the first times I met him networking, and he was really struggling to get the words out, and he was like so nervous. And now he's like the most confident networker I've ever met. Like, and he's
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
In a good way.
yeah, absolutely. It's always good to see him. But it does something to you. And I've always had this like way up in my mind, like, a lot of people say networking's cheap when you run a business, because like if you look at the cost per meeting, sorry, I know, I hope I don't sound pompous or anything, but it's but in terms of all the marketing, the tens of thousands of pounds we've spent on marketing over the years, networking is a small proportion of that. So like it can look cheap, but then you've got this other argument as well. I'm absorbing an hour of my time as a director, but there is so much development that actually happens in personal development that happens in networking. Yeah, and you don't meet the right people all the time, but you just need to meet a few of the right people.
It's true, and some of them are genuinely my best friends.
Yeah.
So some people have been to BNI. So, I've got a friend called Wendy. I hope she sees this. I hope she's super embarrassed. But I met her at BNI probably, 8 years.
Wendy Oliver?
So her daughter, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Penny's daughter, Wendy. Yeah. I met her about 8 years ago. She left BNI probably 7 years ago, and I still see her most weeks, and the same with Tom. So we've got some fantastic connections. And you, I mean, how long ago did you leave?
Yeah, that was that must have been about 7 years ago.
But there are you meet good people and you stay in touch. And
absolutely.
So there's personal development, there's business connections, and there's personal connections as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons like we're insisting our team. Well, no, it's always voluntary. I'd never make someone do what they don't do what they want to do. So I'll put that right. But in the business, but I recognise like the development I went through with networking, because I was really struggling to speak out in front of a group of people. Like I would have gone networking for the first time probably about 8.5 years ago. Yeah. And I was like a nervous wreck, and but then I had to overcompensate for it. I had to, like, on the drive to the networking meeting, I'd just be like, hey, I'll be remembering my lines and like in my head, and then I'd get there, and I think it's just one of those things like practice.
Definitely.
And
but also pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
you have to force yourself to do that, and that's why I'm here.
A bit like a podcast. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, it's this is your first podcast, but I guess it's my second.
Yeah.
But so I'll show you the ropes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so I think it'd be a good thing for our team, and they've started doing it, and they've gotten really enthusiastic about it. And I can start to see changes in the way they look at relationships, not in because they want to monetize relationships, but more importantly, they understand the importance of communicating effectively and learning and listening, and I think that's a really good thing for our business.
I think you have to have a team that believes in what you're doing, though, because it's quite hard to sell. Go along to a networking event and sell something that you're not passionate about. So credit to you for having a team that wants to go networking for your business. That's quite. Yeah,
absolutely. And well, to you too, obviously, and you're the expert.
Thanks.
Yeah, so you've been in BEB for 14 years. You have been a co-owner for about 9, and like, it'd be really good to understand, like, I think we understand what your first 5 years were like. You grafted, you did 2 jobs at the same time. You proved that you wanted it. 5 years in and you're being offered like co-ownership, it means that you're completely essential to the business. What was the 9 years after that like?
So that's a great question, actually. So Bev and I, to say we're 14 years in, and then I look at other businesses that are, they haven't been going for so long, but they've got more of a team. I guess the stat is like, what was it, 36% of businesses making it to their 11th year? I think so. We're quite
Forbes, I can't remember. But
we're quite naturally cautious. We literally write terms and conditions for a living.
Yeah.
So if we're not naturally cautious, something's gone a bit wrong.
Yeah.
But we've been really slow to grow it. So it's fair to say that probably for until we took the first team member on, so that would probably be Molly. We had a girl before her, but it would probably be Molly. So
was it just you and Bev for 5 years? Oh wow, okay.
So 5 plus another 3 probably, and then we took on Molly from there, and that's when we decided we were actually going to go for it.
Yeah.
So we have been quite slow and a bit cautious and a bit steady along the way.
What made you have that attitude change? Was it Molly herself, or was it something about like the idea of hiring?
So Molly wasn't the very first team member we had. We had an apprentice before her, but I guess Bev she wasn't very keen to actually be involved with the staff because she ran a business before BEB and it was a lot of hard work.
Okay, yeah.
And so she's kind of had a hands-off role with the staff, which is fine. So she kind of said to me, if I want to grow BEB, it's kind of on my hands.
Okay, fine.
which has been quite fun actually, and I've really enjoyed the process. So we had an apprentice before Molly, then we took on Molly, and I suppose it was just kind of the being able to hand on tasks and realize that you might actually be able to build this business into something, and that gave us the passion and drive to keep going. And then so from there,
how rewarding have you found like Molly's development?
Oh my god, the entire team. At the moment, the team we have are unbelievable. I love each and every one of them. They're absolutely fantastic. And I just think having a team of staff is the best and hardest thing about running a business. And we were kind of having a chat before the podcast about our teams respectively, and just saying like how much we care about them. And that kind of makes it harder, because when you have to make difficult decisions, or when you have to, when you can't give them what maybe they deserve, then that's really tough, because we do care, because we're small business owners.
I guess actually that's one of my biggest drivers, because I think in my own business I got to a point where I was comfortable, and I was like, I'm comfortable, but if I just stay here, then these people are going to leave because they're not comfortable. And I think you kind of secure or ring fence your own position, and then the next like expansion is about making sure that the key people in your business are going to get the growth that they want, and the rewards that they want.
For me, it's been slightly different, I suppose, because that sounds really mean, but I kind of want them to not have to go through the struggle of not having what I didn't have.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm kind of pushing for them faster than I had it.
Yeah, I think that's similar in some ways. Yeah, you want to make sure that they get well rewarded from the sounds of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also tough in these challenging times.
The way I look at business, especially if you're dealing with inflation, like most businesses are at the moment, is like it's like have you ever played Texas Hold'em? It's really like a type of poker.
I know.
Yeah,
poker.
Fine. Yeah, like think Casino
Sure.
Royale. Yeah,
all in. It's all in for me.
Yeah, it's but actually, like, you know, every time you go around, the blinds get raised, right? So even if you don't want to play, like, you've got to pay more just to be at that table.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've kind of been looking at business recently. It's just like there's the people that just want to stay still. They're just gonna be phased out of the game. And I think the stakes are definitely a lot higher now, because even if you don't deal with inflation, your staff aren't going to get their pay rise and they'll walk out, and then you're going to end up not being able to delegate and do everything yourself and go backwards as a business. So
yeah, that's a good analogy. But then you and I are both in professions that are quite old school. So accountancy and the law profession are both ancient, and a lot of people behind us, you know. Yeah. So a lot of law firms aren't prepared to move with the times, and a lot of accountancy firms aren't prepared to move with the times, and I'm hoping that we clean up on their mistakes, really.
Yes, yeah, definitely. But I think that there's a lot to be done with professionals in particular industry supporting each other as well. Yeah. You know, our goal or vision as a business is to make sure business owners get the support. It doesn't necessarily have to be from us. So if we can have an impact in our industry which up levels our industry, then that's better for business overall. Yeah. So yeah, but I think you're definitely right. There sometimes in certain industries they are kind of set in their ways. I guess like marketing, digital marketing, for example, that's just moving at a million miles per hour.
Yeah.
Whereas accounting,
that's a bit
like,
scary too.
Yeah,
the other way.
Absolutely. And so you got to a point about 3 years into when you became a co-owner, which was 7 years into your 14 years overall, and you hired Molly. Molly over the next couple of years started being really a really good asset for your business. And then what happened there? So
then we took on our first legally trained person, which was a massive step for us.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. She was fantastic. She was brilliant. You know, everything we'd dreamed she would be. And then 6 months in, she came to us and said, I've been offered a job that's paying almost double. And we were like, well, we don't pay each other that, so we can't pay you that. And so she left.
Oh, God, okay.
And that was really hard. So it was hard for her because, you know, she appreciated we were a small business, but also you can't turn down a massive offer like that.
No, I get it. And
it was honestly a disaster. I phoned Bev in the car park, just like, what are we going to do? Yeah. But that brought its own opportunity in Kerry. Yeah. So we basically replaced her with Kerry, and honestly, we've dream team.
Yeah, when a door closes, the window opens.
She just took it and ran with it, and she's absolutely fantastic. She lives and breathes BEB, and couldn't have hoped. And like you say, it wouldn't have happened if that disaster hadn't happened, it's been kind of a repeating thing in our career, I suppose, but it's just, you know, it's just one of them things, and it's turned out for the great.
I guess, like, I completely know what you mean, because like you're familiar with abundance mindset and scarcity mindset, and I think the first maybe couple of times you lose a member of staff, you're in the scarcity mindset, like they were the only person in the world. There is like there's no other employees, even though you see millions of people walking around like everywhere. And then eventually you realize, you know what, this is a great opportunity for our business. Let's learn some lessons here. Fine. Did they leave it because of us, or were they the wrong person? A bit of both, actually. Like, you know, we kind of overloaded them, but the other side is they wouldn't communicate effectively to us and tell us what they did want. And you kind of, and then the next time around, you're like, okay, let's make these roles a little bit more defined, right? Hey, you don't do everything in the business suddenly. No, this is your area of responsibility. And over time, your recruitment just gets better and better, and you know what to look for and what not to look for. And
that's true as well. And So yeah, since then we've taken on another 2. So we've got Rebecca, who does everything back of house, so everything admin, and then we've got Tracy, who does all our marketing.
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
And that's, again, they're both just crucial. They're both just fitted in incredibly well. But since then, we've had a couple of others come and go that haven't quite, just not quite fitted for some reason, or like their circumstance. It's been a lot of the case where circumstances have changed. Yeah. Either location or personally, that just made it not work as well as it did. So you have to move with the times, but it has been tough getting to this point. I think a real turning point for me was so we got a grant as part of the university. There was a program going on at the start of the year, and as part of that we got a free intern from the university for a month. And so previous to that, I was thinking that like one of our weakest points was our recruitment, because we'd lost a couple. They'd both said that our training wasn't great, and I was thinking, oh, maybe our training isn't great. And then we took her on. She just, in a month, she was flying, and I think it just gave me the confidence to think it's not maybe us, maybe it's a bit of both. So it's finding the right person that's willing to learn, or wants to grab it and ask questions and all that sort of stuff. That it's on the job stuff with us. It's very much learning on the job. Yeah,
I guess you and Bev have got a lot of experience anyway, and then I think sometimes people just want like a manual handed to them.
Exactly. It's so hard.
Yeah, I guess there's people out there that don't really understand like business is like the Wild West sometimes. It's rough around the edges. There isn't always a rule book. Like, if you went to work for McDonald's, there would be a rule book. But then, I mean, people at McDonald's are great. Definitely.
Well done.
There's, if you've got that level of creativity, or if you've got that like longing for like to carve something independent out, then you've got to go to a business where they'll embrace that for you. But then the pathway isn't always clear. Yeah. And that, especially in training, like, we're probably similar. Like, I'd love to just put together a training manual, but out of all the priorities we got, it comes further down the list. But that doesn't mean training doesn't happen. It just means that it's a bit more random, but at least people get trained on the things they need.
But also, it's not a passive thing. So I think we've had a couple of people that were hoping it would just be a passive, they sit there, we tell them how to do this thing, and it's really not. So, Kerry, Molly and I, when we're on the phone to our clients, we hear each other's voices in the way that we speak, because that's how we've learned on the job, is like asking the same questions in the same way is how you get that right answer from the client, because what they ask for isn't necessarily what they actually need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the vast, the number of times we get asked to do a partnership agreement, and then you ask them a question and it turns out they're a limited company. Or like, honestly, the questions that we have to delve into to find out actually what they need. And you can't, if I just gave them a training manual that said partnership agreement, do this, this and this, that's no good. Yeah. So it's very much a case of having to know what to ask for and listening and learning on the job.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, this is something that always comes back to bite me in the ass, because I'm like, I've always said to the team, question everything, but in a professional way, obviously, right? And then like we're there making business decisions, and I'm like, I've got like 6 hands up saying like why, or like let's do it this way, and there's a lot of debate that goes around our decision making. But then, I'm not afraid to admit it, but I backtrack a lot, but not publicly. Like there's people will point something out, or I'll be like, I really disagree with you, but I need a third opinion, so I'll go to ask our clients.
Okay, yeah.
And then they might, a member of my team might have been right, but if I just gone ahead and did what I wanted to originally do without getting their opinion, then a third opinion, we probably wouldn't be in a good place. So it's I think like this attitude where the team members do need to question. But one thing I've always said to the team is, like, if you question me or question the business, you've got to have the authority to question the business. That means you've got to be genuinely engaged with the business. Yeah. You've got to love our industry. You've got to want to learn more. You've got to be on this quest to learn more. And you've got to be specific about what you are questioning. It can't just be an attitude thing.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we both said about not wanting to work for a big company, is you do want that input from the team, and they do. You know, they've had fantastic ideas that I would never have come up with in a million years. It's quite insular running a business, isn't it? It's quite a lonely place sometimes, and you might think that you have all the answers and you absolutely don't, and until you speak to someone and say, what do you think about that, and that's the team. Until you got a team that you can trust and actually say, well, what do you think about this, and then they come up with some brilliant ideas you'd never have thought of. You just think, actually, this is a great sounding board.
You're absolutely right. And that's really good. So then you got Kerry, and then you know what, hiring a marketing person, I can relate with you on this, right? Hiring a marketing person for a small business is quite a ballsy move. Like, you've got to really believe in the idea of marketing, because if you think about it, it's one of those things you can't always measure. Like, you kind of can. If you get a client and they're like, hey, I saw your Facebook post. Oh yeah, that came from marketing. But then it's the clients where they see a mixture of you, maybe networking and your business in various locations, plus the marketing, and you don't know quite where it came from. Yeah. And so it's just always been one of those things in your business that's it's quite difficult to measure the return on. So, like, what was going through your head when you hired your marketing person?
So it was probably, I'm trying to think when it was either last year or the year before. We were having a real boom. Like, business was great, everything was great. I think Tracy was our 8th person. We're back down to 6, but Tracy's still with us. Credit to Tracy, quite frankly. I guess it was a case of, we all know that we're not skilled in this area. So we've always thought, you know, it's always been one of our tasks. So sending out a newsletter, let's do that. Okay, fine. Who's going to do that? So first it was Bev, then it was never going to be Bev, then it was me, then it was never going to be me, then it was Kerry, then it was never going to be Kerry. And it's just like always spiraled, never going to be one of us. No one actually wanted to take accountability for that task. And we kind of recognised that as a bit of a weakness. And so we knew that we needed someone actually to take ownership of this task and do it. But you're absolutely right, it's so hard to measure, and I feel sorry for Tracy, because sometimes I think she again, I'm talking about them out of turn, I hope they don't mind, but I think sometimes she beats herself up because there's no definite, you know, I brought this into the team. But I recognise that there are, you know, you have to have so many touch points with a potential client before they'll actually become a client. I think
it's like 15, isn't it? 13 to 15.
And so all of her social media posts, all of her, you know, constant marketing that goes on in the background is massively contributing to that. And although we can't definitely put an ROI on it, like, I realise that everything she doesn't do, like we were saying earlier, either falls back on my desk or doesn't happen at all. So that can't happen in our business, because we just wouldn't be able to grow.
Yeah, you know what, that accountability thing you said, like, that struck a chord with me, because we've been through some marketing people over the years, and then we got to a point where it was just, you know what, who does marketing better? Our team, because they understand our business, like, you know, the people that are dealing with our clients. And so we split the marketing over everyone, and, you know, to their credit, they really pardon me, to their credit, they really, like, stood up and, like, got involved, and it's been amazing for the business to do that. But I think one of the challenges is when you split a role over too many people, you lose that accountability. But more importantly, I think you lose that innovation. Like, when there's just one person who's, like, solely responsible for that one thing, they've got time, or they'll find the time to go and do the research and to learn about it and then improve what you've got. And I kind of think, like, splitting over the team, it's been good, because firstly, it's helped me understand their commitment to the business, and it is very substantial. But the other side is we're now reversing that, where we spread it out of the team and try and condense it back into one person's role. And luckily we've got someone, not lucky, I don't believe in luck in business, but we got someone who really wants to do it, who's been in our business for a while, really understands our business. So from a marketing perspective, we should be in a much, much better place come the new year. But
it is a real skill that I think people take for granted. So when you set up in business, you often try and do everything in-house, don't you? You try and be the jack of all trades, and then you end up finding out that you're spending time doing stuff that you're not an expert in. And so we do try and outsource where we can, because, you know, my time is better spent elsewhere, and I know that. I'm rubbish at marketing. Absolutely rubbish at marketing. I'm rubbish at social media. I would never normally do a podcast, so this is credit to you.
No, fair play. Thank you very much.
And the team will all agree with this. But so, we need an expert. We need someone that actually knows what they're doing.
I think, I don't know if I'll say it to our most recent marketing person, but in the past I've said to marketing people, hey, you're like a journalist, but like a state-controlled journalist. You only report on the good stuff. But they've got to, I think they've got to be inquisitive, right? They've got to want to go learn about the business. They've got to talk to people in the team, understand what their stories are, how they've helped people. For us, we've got to be really careful because we never want to breach confidentiality. But there's ways to present what's happened, and so that's really cool. So yeah, you've grown the team, you shrunk a little bit, but then you're growing again.
We're in such a good place right now with the people that we've got, and it is all about the exact people. So we've had more people that weren't the right people. I'd rather have the best space to grow on. And that's what we've got.
Well, I was listening to the audiobook. It's called Scaling Up. Because my fauvorite audiobook in business ever, or any book in business, is called Built to Sell by John Morello. And then like Audible was like, hey, if you like this, you'll like this other book. And I really don't like this other book, but it's relevant to what I do, and so I'm forcing myself to listen to it to the end. But it's kind of painful because it's so dry. There's like I've gone from like Built to Sell, which is an amazing story about how someone did something, to like, hey, these are the processes you need. Okay. And this is how you build each individual process. It's almost like a scientific method being read back to you. But scaling up, like one of the things it talks about is essentially that a lot of organizations, they do something called a quitting bonus. So I think Amazon do it, but there's a few other companies as well. So like if you're in your probationary period, they'll give you £2,000 or dollars to quit.
What?
Yeah, and then like when you get to your second year, they'll give you $3,000, and then when you get to your fourth year, you get $4,000 to quit. And what they're doing is every single time, the more investment you make in the company, they make it easier to walk away financially, but they don't. Not emotionally, obviously.
Yeah.
And so what happens is people who aren't 100% invested in that business, like emotionally and in terms of their growth, they will just take that bonus and say, thank you, I'll just go work somewhere else. And I think it's called a quitting bonus. But what I've realized is like the scaling up the book, what it covers is it's saying some of the most successful businesses, they'll pay double the market rate because they understand, like, one good employee can do the work of 3 employees. Essentially, and then fine, it's better to pay twice to get 3 times as much, right? So there is something to that, and I think what you're saying is absolutely right. It's just having the right people. You don't need lots of people. Yeah,
and it has been tough getting to this point. And there have been people that you think are the right people, and then they turn out not to be the right people. But we're in a great place now to build on that.
I mean, I know. Like, we've fallen off the horse a few times when it comes to to staff members, and some of the times it like identified a weakness in our recruiting process and or the way we allocated work in the business or the way we constructed roles, and other times it was actually it was always on us. It was. I think about it, and when you're the managing director, it means like you've got ultimate responsibility. There's never been an instance I could ever blame anyone else for anything that happened in our business. Yeah. There's every single time something went wrong that I didn't want it to go wrong, I could always identify something we could have done to prevent it. Yeah. And that's kind of I think that's a really important thing. But so you're about 6 members of the team now. Yeah. And one thing I really wanted to ask you, although I kind of know the answer already because we know each other for so long, but what's the main difference between what you do and a solicitor might do, for example?
The fees. Okay. So really not a lot. So we're kind of a hodgepodge bunch of variously qualified people, really. Yeah. So we've got some paralegals, we've got Kerry who's doing her master's in law, and basically it's really, so we're kind of the people that would normally do the drafting in a solicitor's office. Yeah. We've gone out on our own. We've gone rogue. And that just really means that we can do it for a lot cheaper. We're also specialists. So, a lot of, we do actually work really closely with some solicitors firms now where they'll outsource it to us. So like we'll white label it for them, where we do the drafting and then they put their name to it and charge whatever they like for it. Yeah. And that's actually been a great model for us.
But you know what? I think I've always found like a lot of the time legal advice is inaccessible to small businesses because like if you're getting charged £300 an hour, I'm not saying solicitors aren't worth £300 an hour, but there's a lot of overheads, and also there's a constraint of supply that's been built into that. And whereas with you, you've got a lot more flexibility in it.
Yeah. Flexibility, but also we like to think that we talk to our clients like they're normal people.
Yeah.
We get a lot of really good feedback from that. So sometimes we'll have a client come into the office and we'll run through the draft with them, and they'll leave and they'll say, actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And we're thinking, what were you expecting? Like, actually, we're talking to them like they're normal human beings, which in our profession is quite unusual, I think. Because normally, you go to a solicitor's office, you have to park somewhere, pay for parking in town, and walk up to them, and then the receptionist might deign to offer you a cup of tea while you wait for the solicitor to come downstairs. And it's all a bit like, that's not us at all. We're normal people, and we'll talk to you like you're a normal person, and that's quite refreshing. Yeah. I
mean, like, I've always believed, like, you're not a seasoned business owner until you've been sued a couple of times. But like, I've got solicitors' letters in the past. It's never been successful for them, but it's like, people try it on.
Sure.
But I've got solicitors' letters in the past, and it's like a different language. It's like there's just regular words they can use, and they use like something out of like the Latin dictionary.
Yeah.
And
absolutely, and they pride themselves in that. That's how they charge their fees.
Exactly.
And when we're writing a set of terms and conditions for a client, we're always very careful to write, you will do this and we will do this, and actually so that they can understand it, because then you're far less likely to fall out if you actually understand what you're signing.
More importantly, and like your customers understand. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So it doesn't need to be full of how so forths and notwithstandings. It can actually just say, you will do this and we will do this, and that's a contract.
Yeah.
It's quite a new world approach, I suppose.
But
I don't know why it can't just be like that generally.
I guess, and there's value in the simplification.
It's just as protecting, and more so because you're less likely to fall out because you know what it says.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there a particular industry that you focus on at the moment?
Not really. I mean, it's quite hard for us to niche down, really. I suppose we've always said, smaller businesses that haven't got their own in-house legal department, but we're also working with some of the biggest businesses in the world, so we're just kind of supporting their legal team as well. But no real specific industry. I mean, we've worked with architects, accountants, funeral directors, fish auction sites. Honestly, the weirder the better.
If your fish doesn't turn out fresh, it's not our fault.
So very weird and wonderful.
It's I'm thinking about that Tesco advert where like the fish looked unhappy and the woman wanted her money back, or like she's going to get her money back. But I guess that was a terms and conditions nightmare for them.
Yeah. Or not.
Maybe. Maybe no one actually wanted to return a fish.
Maybe not.
Okay. I mean, no, that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, you do kind of niche anyway, because like contracts are quite a specific area of law.
Yeah, that part of law in itself. So again, a lot of people are used to going to a solicitor's firm where they also deal with divorces, and they also deal with wills, and they also deal with everything else. And they're probably not the best person that you want writing your business contract, because do they get your business? Do they understand what it is that you do? Whereas or
are they just assuming your business will split up at some point? Or
probably just a template, if I'm being perfectly honest. We've seen a lot of templates in the past where they haven't even changed the name. So, whereas, you come to us, we actually care. We're small. We actually care about what your business does, and we'll find out what it does to the nth degree so that we can write the terms and conditions to suit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And finding out about risks and things that you might not have even thought of. So when I said we're risk averse, that's all we do. We're always thinking about danger. Just constantly like, on red alert.
But maybe then in some ways, maybe you're not cheaper, but a lot more effort goes into the quality of the work that you produce.
100%.
Because I think these days in general, people aren't looking for cheap. I know there's a looming recession, although we're not allowed to talk about it. But I guess I think people always want more value. Like if a business owner has been round the houses enough times, they know like if you buy cheap, you buy twice. And a lot of the time you end up with all other kinds of complications in your business. So
I mean, I would say on that, we're not, what's cheap? You can get a free download.
Yeah,
that's
you can
cheap.
actually. Yeah.
Whereas we are affordable. We're definitely affordable. We're more affordable than solicitors, but you're getting something quality.
I guess like sometimes like what I found with solicitors, but it's, you know, I know some great ones as well, but they're so used to writing and speaking different language that they can't listen in regular language.
Yeah.
It's and it's almost like they're expecting like a regular person on the street to talk their litigation language.
Yeah.
And then they don't even have to do the translation.
That's true. But I also think, you know, like you say, you know some fantastic ones, and so do we. Like, it is a world that's changing for the better. Because I think a lot of these high street solicitors that have always done something a certain way kind of aren't succeeding that much. So I think, you know, there is the opportunity for change in the legal world, and you know, we're working with some fantastic solicitors that actually care about their clients, speak to their clients in a normal way, and that's kind of where we want to build on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, amazing. Yeah. So I think I mentioned before, there's some questions I really want to get answered during this podcast. So what would you say is the most challenging thing that's happened in your business?
I'd say we're in it right now.
Okay.
So we've had a really tough year.
Yeah.
So, you know, and a lot of people I speak to in the networking world are saying the same thing. But I guess, so we thought COVID would be the worst year for us. And actually COVID was our best year because people actually had the time. You know, they were sat at home with not a lot to do. They got grants and whatnot.
Yeah.
And had some money to spend on their businesses. Whereas now, as our clients are feeling the pinch, we're feeling the pinch too. So
is that because they're delaying the purchases? And I guess it's it's a challenging time for many businesses, isn't it?
It has been tough. It's been a really tough year, but I think I'd like to think we're out of the worst of it now. Personally,
are you taking any kind of action to deal with it, or are you just going to ride it like a surfer?
I mean, a bit of both, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying very hard not to cut costs because you know, it's not what we're at. We're all about growth. But yeah, like I said, I think we've had the worst of our times as a business earlier this year, and now we're just kind of riding the storm and hoping that we're out at the end of it. But
I guess actually, like, because you know, part of the question is like, you know, what got you through your toughest times when most people wouldn't get through them, and I think you kind of hinted at it, and it's just like trying really hard not to cut costs, because the thing that, from what I've seen, that kills most businesses in a recession is they just have this knee-jerk reaction to slash spending on everything. Yeah. Whereas actually, it's like the opposite way around. It's almost like trying to run through a barrier. Yeah. Like maybe like, what was it, Harry Potter and Platform 9 or 3/4 or whatever it is. And it's, you've got to have this faith, and you've got to know that the recession won't last forever, or whatever is going on won't last forever.
I definitely think being 14 years in has given us the confidence to carry on. Whereas I think maybe if we'd been 4 or 5 years in, we'd have thought, actually, do you know what, this is too tough. We'll walk away and do something different. But because we're this far into it, I feel like we can, you know, we've weathered other stuff. We can make it.
Yeah, you've seen different cycles and...
But it's not saying it's not been difficult, but you're absolutely right. You know, so many businesses I know in COVID just cut all marketing costs. Yeah. And I was just thinking, what are you doing? That's the worst possible decision. Like, you should be marketing harder than ever. What's
the saying? So you cut marketing for a week, you feel it for a month. You cut it for a month, you feel it for 3 months. You cut it for 3 months, you feel it for a year. Yeah. And it makes sense. It's
and a lot of those businesses aren't around now.
Yeah.
That did that. So I think you've got to be brave, keep investing, keep holding on, but you've got to have the reserve to do that. So again, plan ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've got to demand like a great level of commitment from everyone in the business. Like those kind of times, you can't have passengers. Mm-hmm. Like even if you got spare capacity, you've got to find ways to use that spare capacity in your business. But I agree with that. And I think, like, you know, and a lot of people, they only see the downside. They don't see the opportunity. And it's like, a lot of businesses, they just stop marketing during the recession, and that means your marketing pound will go so much further.
That's true.
Less people talking, it means more people are gonna hear you.
That's true, and there'll be bigger businesses that are absolutely capitalising on this. Whereas you know, we could have a share of that market if we just keep going. We can get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, amazing. So, Hazel, why do you get out of bed in the morning?
I think it's mostly for the team. So I've got such great faith in the team that we've built, and I kind of want to leave a legacy. So, you know, I want to build something that will keep me going when I want to step away from the business, but also something that keeps them going, because I know how passionate they are about the company, and I desperately want to keep it going for them. So I suppose I drag myself out in the hardest times just to keep it going for them guys.
Yeah,
because they've shown loyalty to me, and I'll never let them down.
I guess you do it for each other. Yeah, that's really cool. And what advice would you give to someone following your footsteps?
I'd say don't worry if you don't automatically have a dream. If you haven't got a dream idea for a business but you still want to be a business owner, if you've got something that you're passionate about, if you've got something that you love doing, you can make it work. Okay,
absolutely amazing. And then final question, what's next for you?
Onwards and upwards, really. So we're hoping to build a bigger team, massive team in Northampton. I'd love. We thought originally about having offices across the country, but now I think everything's gone online. So it's big team. We all love working together. So big team in Northampton, and then
grow the family. And okay, Hazel, that's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. So out of my comfort zone.
Okay, so everyone, that's Hazel Napier from BEB Contracts and Legal on Unrelenting Drive. So join us at our next episode, and thanks for listening and watching.